Hello and welcome to the viewers of this video. This is the Orange Fan here, bringing you another entry for the episode Recap and Thoughts category. This video will be dedicated to the A segment of episode 56 of The Loud House, Selfie Improvement. We begin this segment at the Loud House, where we see Lori noticing that her most recent selfie on an app has received 100 likes. Lori shows Lenny this, and Lenny compliments Lori's most recent selfie. Lenny also mentions that Lori's selfie almost has the same number of likes that Carol Pingrey's selfie has. Lori is surprised to hear this, and Lenny reveals that Carol Pingrey has just joined this app, and Carol's first selfie has received 101 likes. Lori looks at Lenny's phone and sees Carol's first selfie on this app. Lori then becomes angry and begins to give a speech about how Carol Pingrey had always felt compelled to one-up Lori at everything she does. We then see a series of flashbacks which show Carol defeating Lori at something and Lenny trying to cheer Lori up. The first flashback is when they were kids. In this flashback, Carol sold the most cookies in the Bluebell Scouts. The next flashback shows Carol being crowned the homecoming queen, and the third flashback shows Carol winning a golf tournament. In this flashback, Lenny congratulates Lori for getting more points than Carol, and Lori realizes that she's going to have to remind Lenny about how golf scoring works. After these flashbacks, Lori finishes her speech by saying she will make and post a selfie that will receive more likes than Carol's selfie. So the next scene takes us to the bathroom, and Lori is preparing to make a mirror selfie. Unfortunately for Lori, though, Lana ruins the selfie because Lana had just finished a flush valve for the toilet. So yes, when Lana finishes installing this new flush valve for the toilet, Lana accidentally ruined Lori's selfie. So the next scene takes us to the yard, and Lori has now decided to try and make a fun in the sun selfie. Unfortunately for Lori, though, several distractions ruin Lori's attempts to create a fun in the sun selfie. These distractions include Lynn playing a sport, Lily needing her diaper to be changed, and Lucy digging graves in the yard. So the scene then, next up we go to a different scene. The next scene takes us to Lori and Lenny's room, and Lori has decided to now try to create a lost in thought selfie. So Lori has locked the door to the room, and she's made sure that none of her other siblings are in the room. Unfortunately for Lori, though, Lincoln's toy helicopter accidentally photobombs her selfie through the window. So Lori opens the window to point this out to Lincoln. Lincoln apologizes, and he tries to bring the toy helicopter to a different location. But Lincoln accidentally has the toy helicopter cut some of Lori's hair off. So Lori has to quickly fix up her hair to hide the accidental haircut. And Lori comments about how she's not going to be able to take an ideal picture while her siblings are around. And this gives Lori an idea. So the scene then the scene changes to the yard, where the majority of the Loud siblings are. Yes, the majority of the Loud siblings are in the yard right now. And Lori eventually heads out to the yard, and she inquires if any of her siblings want to help her rake leaves so that they can make the yard look really nice. And this was part of Lori's plan. The rest of the Loud siblings decide to make a run for it so they don't have to rake leaves. And Lori, Lori is satisfied that her plan worked. So with her siblings not in the yard right now, Lori ends up creating a pile of leaves. Yes, Lori uses the rake to create a pile of leaves. Lori has now decided to try and create a leaf jumping selfie. But while Lori is preparing the camera on her phone to set a timer so that the camera will go off right at the right moment when Lori jumps into the pile of leaves, that's when Bobby calls Lori. And we find out that they have a daily 4 o'clock phone call. But Lori tells Bobby that they're going to have to postpone the phone call because she has her hands tied trying to create this leaf jumping selfie. Bobby admits that he wanted someone to talk to because of a dentist appointment that he has. He brought up this dentist appointment to Lori some time ago, but Lori isn't really paying attention to what Bobby is saying, and she comments about how they're going to have to talk later because the lighting right now is ideal for the leaf jumping selfie, and Lori doesn't want to miss the chance to take the selfie while this lighting is present. So she hangs up after telling Bobby that she'll talk to him later. And after hanging up on Bobby, Lori prepares to jump into the pile of leaves. Unfortunately for Lori, though, she left the rake in the pile of leaves. So when Lori jumps into the pile of leaves, the rake hits Lori in the face. And so Lori decides to try some other selfies. So after the leaf jumping selfie fails, Lori tries a tire swing selfie, but that fails because a swarm of bees were in the tire swing. Next up, Lori tries a rainy day selfie. Lori is trying to create some artificial rain by using a hose, but no water is coming out of the hose. But when Lori looks at the hose to see why the water is not coming out, that's when the water does come out of the hose. So that ended up backfiring too. So eventually Lori decides to try a tractor selfie, and Lori even questions if tractor selfies are even a thing, but decides it's better than nothing. So Lori takes this tractor selfie, and no distractions, no interruptions, no complications happen. The tractor selfie is successful, and Lori is happy about this, so she posts the tractor selfie. So yes, the scene changes with Lori back inside the house, and Lori ends up receiving a total of 102 likes on her tractor selfie. Lori then goes into the kitchen, and Lenny is in the kitchen right now. Lenny compliments Lori's tractor selfie, and Lenny also mentions that Lori's tractor selfie almost has the same number of likes that Carol's tractor selfie has. Lori is surprised to hear this, and she looks at Lenny's phone, and she sees that Carol does have a tractor selfie, and Carol's tractor selfie has a dog in it. And Lori says that two can play at the game of having cute, lovable animals in their selfies. So Lori decides to now try and create a pet selfie. So Lori tries to get the 4 main pets of the Loud family, Charles, Cliff, Walt, and Geo, into this selfie, and she wants them to wear matching sweaters. And the 4 main pets of the Loud family do not want to wear those sweaters. So Lori eventually does take a picture, but it's not a very ideal picture. But rather than trying to take a different picture, Lori actually goes to see Lola, because Lola is an expert when it comes to photo retouching. And so Lori wants Lola to retouch her pet selfie photo. Lola comments about how this will cost Lori some cupcakes. So Lori makes some cupcakes for Lola, and Lola is able to edit the pet selfie so that it looks ideal. And Lori expresses her gratitude to Lola for her help. And Lori thanks Lola for her help, and Lola appreciates Lori's thanks, and she also requests some milk to go with the cupcakes. So we then head to the kitchen again, and Lori and Lenny are both in the kitchen right now. Lenny compliments Lori's pet Selfie and comments about how it almost has the same number of likes that Carol's coffee shop Selfie has. Lori is surprised to hear this. She looks at Lenny's phone and she is not happy to see this coffee shop Selfie. Bobby tries to call Lori, but Lori declines the call, saying now isn't the time to talk to Bobby. She has to figure out a new Selfie. So Lori decides to try her own coffee shop Selfie, but rather than heading to an actual coffee shop, Lori decides to make the kitchen of the Loud House look like a coffee shop. And she's also including Lenny, Luann, and Lincoln in this picture. And she's having them wear some outfits or accessories to go along with this recreation of a coffee shop. Lincoln doesn't want to wear suspenders, but Lori manages to convince him to wear the suspenders by saying that she will give him a ride to the comic book store later on. And Lori wants Lenny and Luann to pretend to laugh at something that Lori said in a hypothetical situation. Luann questions if it was coffee-related humor. Lori says it doesn't matter what the hypothetical situation is, just pretend to laugh. And Luann decides to go along with the coffee-related humor idea. So the coffee shop Selfie is taken, and Lori is pleased at the number of likes she received for the coffee shop Selfie. And she also notices that Lincoln is still wearing the suspenders. Lincoln admits that the suspenders have grown on him now. So Lori then heads into the kitchen, and Lenny is in the kitchen. Lori requests that Lenny not tell her about any possible selfies that Carol had that might one-up Lori's Selfie. Or Lori lists some possible examples of selfies that Carol might have posted, and Lenny says that none of those selfies were posted, but Lenny does reveal that Carol had posted a picnic selfie. And Lori looks at Lenny's phone and sees the picnic selfie. So Lori calls Bobby, and Bobby is glad that Lori called, but Lori interrupts what Bobby is saying and says that they need to go on a picnic right now. Bobby says that now isn't the best time to do this. He points out that they live 3 hours apart, and he says he's about to have the dentist appointment that he brought up earlier. But Lori isn't really paying attention and insists that this is an emergency. Lori wants Bobby to meet her at a rest stop by exit 57 at 4 o'clock. Bobby says that he can get there as early as 5 o'clock. Lori isn't happy about this, but decides that it'll have to do. And Lori also wants Bobby to wear a certain outfit for the picnic, and then she hangs up. She hangs up on Bobby after mentioning what outfit she wants him to wear for this picnic selfie. So we then head to the rest stop that Lori wants Bobby to meet her at. Lori has arrived and she's trying to set the picnic up, but Bobby hasn't arrived just yet. Eventually, though, Bobby does arrive, and Lori notices that Bobby has swollen gums now, and he's acting very exhausted. Lori questions what happened to Bobby, but decides that they could give Bobby some scarves. Lori figures that she can give Bobby some scarves to wear to hide the swelling, or she also considers the possibility of taking the picture at certain angles that will hide Bobby's swelling. Bobby answers Lori's question by mentioning that he got his wisdom teeth removed. He mentioned that he told her about this appointment weeks ago, and this snaps Lori out of her focus on the selfie. Lori realizes that Bobby did tell her about the wisdom teeth removal weeks ago, and she apologizes for Bobby. She calls herself selfish for thinking about this selfie competition, and she can't believe that Bobby still drove all this way to reunite with her. Bobby, though, says that it's no trouble for him to drive the lengths he did. Bobby says an analogy about how he would drive to the moon for Lori, and Lori appreciates what Bobby had said, and she decides she's not going to worry about the selfie anymore. She thinks that Bobby and her should just enjoy their time together on this picnic. So, yes, that's exactly what happens. Lori and Bobby are just enjoying time together on their picnic. And Lori admits that she can't believe that she became really obsessed with trying to one-up Carol in this selfie competition. But she decides that it doesn't matter if Carol is better than her at everything. Lori decides that she has many elements in her life that she should be grateful for, and she considers Bobby being a great boyfriend to be one of those elements. Bobby appreciates what Lori said, and Lori and Bobby share a hug with each other. So the next scene takes us to the Royal Woods Mall, and Lori has gone to the shop where she bought the picnic items at. Lori is returning the picnic items, and after she's returned the items, she notices that Carol Pingrey is shopping at this very same shop. Lori doesn't know why Carol is here, but Lori decides to approach Carol, and Carol is surprised to see Lori here. Lori admits that she agrees that it's very awkward for them to be crossing paths right now, but Lori says that she wanted to tell Carol that Carol wins. Lori begins to say that she accepts that Carol has been better at her at everything ever since their kindergarten days, but she's made her peace with that. Lori decides that she can't continue to live her life trying to compete with Carol, and wishes Carol an enjoyable shopping experience. But before Lori can leave, Carol stops Lori to say something herself. Carol admits that she's surprised to hear that Lori thinks that Carol is better than Lori. Carol admits that she always thought that Lori was better than herself, and Lori is surprised to hear this. Carol, though, lists examples of why she thinks Lori is better than her. Carol mentions how Lori was the only person to join the varsity golf team in the 9th grade. Carol also mentions how Lori has 10 siblings that look up to her, and Carol also comments about how Lori has great volume in her hair. And Lori is surprised to hear this, and Lori realizes that their competition with each other had been in vain. Carol agrees with this, and admits that the selfie competition in particular became very chaotic. Carol admits that the dog she adopted for the tractor selfie is actually quite mean, despite the picture suggesting otherwise. Lori mentions how she fell in some of the graves that Lucy was digging. Lori and Carol share a laugh about this, and they do agree that the competition was silly, but they're both happy that it's behind them now. And Lori thinks that they should commemorate this moment by taking a BFF selfie together. Carol, though, doesn't think now is the time. Carol says something about how she doesn't think they should take the selfie looking the way they currently do. But Lori thinks now is as good of a time as any. So Lori and Carol both take the BFF selfie at the same time on their respective phones, and they post the selfie at the same time from each of their phones. So we then head back to the Loud House, and Lori has entered the kitchen, and Lenny is in the kitchen. Lenny compliments Lori and Carol for their BFF selfie. Lori appreciates Lenny's compliment, but says that she's not so concerned about that anymore. Lenny, though, then mentions that Lori and Carol's BFF selfie almost has the same number of likes that another BFF selfie has. This other BFF selfie is with Bianca and Suyan. Those are the two characters that have this BFF selfie that got more likes than Lori and Carol's BFF selfie. Lori is surprised to hear this, and then she receives a phone call from Carol. Carol found out about Bianca and Suyan's BFF selfie, and Lori decides, Lori agrees with Carol that this is surprising. So Lori and Carol both agree that they're going to work together in a selfie competition against Bianca and Suyan. And that is how we end this segment. So this segment is another example of a character besides Lincoln being the viewpoint character along with being the spotlight character. So in this segment's example, in the case of this segment, Selfie Improvement, Lori is the viewpoint character along with being the spotlight character. And like Roadie to Nowhere, which also featured another character in a prevalent role, even though one of the Loud sisters was the spotlight character and viewpoint character, that was the case with Selfie Improvement too. In Selfie Improvement, Lori is the viewpoint character and the spotlight character, but another character plays a prevalent role in this segment, and that other character is Carol Pingrey. And that's what I really liked about this segment. I brought up before in the recap and thoughts video for Picture Perfect. Picture Perfect, the season 1 segment, Picture Perfect, was when Carol Pingrey had first appeared. Picture Perfect was when Carol Pingrey had first appeared in the series. And I mentioned in the recap and thoughts video for Picture Perfect that Carol was a character that I really was hoping would return in the future. Carol was a character that I felt had a lot of potential, and I was definitely interested to learn more about Carol's character, particularly her rivalry with Lori, because Picture Perfect didn't really give us a clear understanding of Carol's character, pardon me. Carol didn't really get a chance to talk in Picture Perfect. She only had a few seconds of screen time. So, yes, Picture Perfect wasn't enough to really have an idea of what Carol's character was like. And a lot of fans had different interpretations of what Carol's character was like. Some fans had wondered if maybe Carol's personality made Lori on her worst days look benevolent in comparison. Others, though, had considered the possibility that maybe Carol is a perfectly nice person, and that Lori's animosity towards Carol is misplaced. And with Selfie Improvement, that seems to be the case with Carol. With Selfie Improvement, it looks like Carol really is a nice person, and that Lori's animosity towards Carol was misplaced. At worst, Carol was maybe a bit very competitive, at least with the selfies. Maybe a little competitive in other areas. They never really clarified if Carol really was trying to one-up Lori in those other instances, or if it was just really the selfie competition was really the case. But we do find out that Carol actually always thought Lori was better than her. So it was a case where both Lori and Carol had similar sentiments about themselves in relation to their dynamic with each other. Lori thought that Carol was better than her, while Carol thought that Lori was better than her. But yes, I did like how we got to learn more about Carol's character, and I do like how Carol seems like a really nice character. Like I said, at most, Carol seems to be maybe a bit competitive, particularly with the selfies, but she seems to be a nice person overall. And it was also pretty heartwarming how Lori and Carol have mended fences with each other. They buried the hatchet. They're not rivals with each other anymore. They're actually friends with each other. And this opens up possibilities for Carol returning in the future. Now, I should go ahead and mention it now, but this is really Carol's only formal appearance in season 3. Carol's only other appearance in season 3 is, Carol's only other appearance in season 3 was a flashback scene in a later entry, but Carol doesn't appear in the present day of the series throughout season 3, but she could return in season 4 and future entries starting with season 4. That's possible, especially now that Lori and Carol are no longer on bad terms with each other. And yes, and maybe we can learn more about Carol's dynamic with other Loud siblings, because this segment seems to suggest that Lenny and Carol don't have any ill will towards each other. Lenny seems to be on friendly terms with Carol. And Picture Perfect did indicate that Lincoln is on good terms with Carol too. Lincoln knew Carol well enough that he requested her help with the family picture that he was planning in that segment. So yeah, I would be curious to kind of learn how Lincoln met and befriended Carol. That's something I've been interested in learning more about. And with Lori and Carol now being on friendly terms with each other, maybe we can learn about that, and maybe we can see Carol's interactions with other Loud siblings too. But yes, I was very happy to see Carol return. Carol was last seen in season 1, although Carol did get referenced by name a few times in season 2, so they hadn't forgotten about the character. She still was brought up a few times, even if she was last physically seen in season 1. And while I'm on the topic of Carol actually showing up, Carol's design did get up. Carol received a slight redesign in season 3 compared to the first season. In season 1, Carol's outfit had a cyan color scheme, the same color scheme that Lori has. But in this segment, Carol has a purple color scheme rather than the cyan colored color scheme. Now, some fans had suspected maybe this was to distinguish Carol and Lori more from each other. Sort of like the situation with a certain famous pair of plumber brothers, the Mario brothers. Luigi was originally created to just be Mario and green, but over the course of time, Luigi became more distinct from Mario. So maybe that was a similar case here. Maybe they were trying to make Carol more distinct from Lori. And while I'm on the topic of making Carol more distinct from Lori, Carol finally got to talk in this segment. And I do remember, yes, in the recap and thoughts video for Picture Perfect, I had speculated on the possibility of Catherine Tabor, Lori's voice artist, voicing Carol, but giving her a different speech pattern. But in this segment, Carol actually has a different voice artist. Carol's voice artist is Ashlyn Madden. I'm not really familiar with her other works, but I think she played the role of Carol very well, and I would definitely look forward to hear more of her voicing Carol, hear her with more material for the character. So yeah, that's another detail I thought I'd mention. So Carol actually got her own unique voice artist rather than sharing a voice with Lori. And in this segment, Carol has received a different color scheme from Lori's color scheme, and that does seem to be, like I said, I suspect that might be because they're trying to make Carol more distinct from Lori rather than making her Lori's identical stranger. But yeah, there were some other, I thought there were some other great moments in this segment too. I did think Lori's attempts at different selfies was pretty funny. I'm not really a selfie person myself, but Lori, yeah, having these names for all these different types of selfies, I thought that was pretty. I thought there was a lot of humor there, and there were some heartwarming moments too, like with Bobby and Lori. Bobby ended up helping Lori to snap out of her obsession with the selfie competition, and it was heartwarming to see Lori and Bobby's interactions with each other as a couple. So I thought that was a pretty heartwarming moment too. And I do have to admit, I am impressed that Bobby was able to drive after having his wisdom teeth pulled out. I remember when I had my wisdom teeth pulled out, I was in no position to drive after that. So yeah, the fact that Bobby was still able to drive after that, that was really impressive. I wasn't able to pull that off. So that was a pretty but yeah, Bobby and Lori's moments were pretty heartwarming. Oh, and I guess another detail worth mentioning is Lenny. There was one point during the segment where Lori did the whole figurative saying is my middle name situation, and Lenny inquired that she thought, or Lenny said she thought Marie was Lori's middle name, and this led to some confusion for some fans because back in Driving Miss Hazy, Lori's driver's license and Lenny's hypothetical driver's license showed them having L for the initial of their middle names. And this also brings up something that was brought up for supplementary material, something on Instagram for the Loud House, where Lincoln had answered a question about middle names. Based off of that Instagram post, Lincoln's comments in that Instagram post gave me the impression that Marie is not actually any of the Loud siblings' middle names. It's just something that the Loud parents say in place of their actual middle names. And given how Lenny is an airhead, that could also be a way to hand wave that seeming inconsistency. Because I do get the feeling that Marie isn't actually the Loud siblings' middle name. It's just something that the Loud parents say in place of it. That's the impression I got from that Instagram post that talked about it. And Lenny bringing up that she thought Lori's middle name was Marie could be considered an example of Lenny being an airhead. So yeah, it was a small detail, but I thought it was worth bringing up because I know some fans were confused about the situation with the Loud siblings' middle names. And otherwise, that actually might be about it for this particular segment. So, like I said, I really enjoyed this segment, mostly for bringing Carol back. Carol was a character that I feel has a lot of potential, and the fact that Lori and Carol are now friends with each other does open up the possibilities for Carol returning. Carol doesn't have a major role for the rest of Season 3, but maybe she will return in Season 4. And I certainly hope that we will see more of Carol in future seasons of The Loud House. And I do think, I thought there were some humorous moments, some heartwarming moments, and yeah, I can definitely appreciate the lesson about how I guess you could say they did focus on the grass is always greener lesson. How Lori thought that Carol was better than her, but Carol admits that she thought that Lori was better than her. So yeah, you could say that they did apply a lesson for the grass is always greener, with Lori and Carol realizing that the competition with each other was all in vain, but they do mend fences and they're now on friendly terms with each other. So you could say they had a good lesson here. And like I said, this continues to show serialized elements for the series because going forward, Lori and Carol are now going to be friends with each other, and there's potential to have Carol interacting with not just Lori on friendly terms, but we could see Carol interacting with other members of the Loud family. And I would definitely be open to seeing more of Carol's interactions with other characters. And that's right, Carol returning physically in Season 3 after only being name-dropped a few times in Season 2 and last being seen physically in Season 1 gives me hope for other characters that could return in the future. Like, there may have been some characters who haven't been seen since Season 1, but maybe there's a chance for them to return into the future. Chunk returned in season 3, Carol has returned in season 3, so this continues to give me hope that maybe other characters have a chance of returning in a future season. So yeah, I would say that's about it for this segment. So as of this video, we've now discussed the A segment for episode 56 of The Loud House on this channel. Take care, and until next time.